Hi, I'm Natalie Jill, fat loss expert turned high performance coach. When odds are stacked against us, how do we shift and create everything from nothing? How do we level up when we aren't feeling it yet or we've had a big setback? On this podcast, I'll be talking to some of the most inspiring and courageous men and women on this planet who, at their worst, learned how to achieve success greater than they ever dreamed possible, leveling up and creating everything from nothing. Originating as a camera-shy makeup artist behind the camera, Tiffany Lee, aka Coach Glitter, was great at her job but wanted more. On set for countless hours, she would listen and keenly observe all of the information she was learning from her powerful clients. As she watched and learned, she started to ask herself one simple question: why not me? That question and hunger for more sparked a fire inside that led her to a mega successful brand where the once camera-shy coach is now a leading camera confidence coach. On this episode, Tiffany Lee shares how she overcomes anxiety by going for things anyway, how she consistently adds value to clients and why that exploded her brand, why she chooses to lead with service and worry about the money part later, and why mentors, great coaches, and great masterminds have been a huge key to her success. Tiffany leveled up from makeup artist to brand coach, and she teaches us how she created everything from nothing. I'm so excited today because we are chatting with my good friend, Tiffany Lee Bymaster, aka Coach Glitter, because she's everything sparkly. Thanks for being here, Tiffany.
I'm so excited to be here with you today.
I cannot wait to get inside what makes you up and share your genius with my audience, because you are a total example of somebody who has leveled up continually and truly created everything from nothing. So I know people see you online and they see your courses and you in these fabulous masterminds and your cute style and everything together, and they think, oh my gosh, she's got it so together. She's so successful. But I know that there was a you before all that. And I'm interested in who that was.
Absolutely. And the online brand has really evolved several times over the past 7-8 years. But the biggest pivot has been just in the last 4 years. And the great news is that all of us are allowed to be different things. We should constantly evolve, because the exciting thing about living as a human being on this amazing earth with all of the opportunities, especially online and with social media, is that you're not confined to do what you're doing today for the rest of your life. And prior to just 4 years ago, when I made that big shift in my own business, my own brand, I didn't even call myself a brand back then, but I had this huge shift because I realized prior to then, I thought for the rest of my life that I would be a makeup artist and a wardrobe stylist and a set designer. And I was very content doing that. But once I got that exposure, like working with amazing clients, we used to work together a ton too on your things, that it opened up my eyes and I said, I don't just have to be the person behind the scenes. Why not me? And I think when we ask ourselves that exact questions, those 3 life-changing words, why not me? That why couldn't it be us that makes these huge shifts, or even the little baby steps that takes us to those huge shifts? Why couldn't we open ourselves and expand the possibilities of what we are capable of not just creating, but this entire life that we can build? And when I looked at myself, stood in front of a mirror, and asked myself, like, why couldn't I do this? I love what I do, but there's so much more out there. It is scary. It is the unknown. But I had examples of people like you and the other clients that I was working with that were proof to me that really, if you have the gumption, you have the drive, and you're willing to do things with the fear, all of us do it with the fear. By the way, if you're ever waiting for some magical day to appear where the fear just disappears, that never happens. We have to jump and we just have to do it. And the funny thing is, by doing that exact thing that freaks us out, that's how we get closer to discovering what is it that we want to do? What is our next thing? And that drive in our belly just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think everybody is capable of finding something that they want to do that's bigger than what they're doing now.
So I love that question, why not me? And that you were asking yourself that question and finding examples. And that's amazing. How did you stop the self-doubt? Because I know that's what cripples so many people. It's like they might say, why not me? But then the self-doubt takes over. Those limiting beliefs, those self-imposed stops, the examples of why it won't work.
Right.
Did those pop up at all? And what did you do to deal with those?
They still pop up to this day. I think we all have those little voices in our heads. It doesn't matter who you are, how much success or fame or recognition you get. Because I've worked with some of the biggest people on the biggest shows, some of the biggest people in the social media marketing space. I started off in film and television. I've worked with a lot of the big names. And the comforting thing is that they all feel it too. So it's those limiting beliefs. It's those demons that we have from the stories that we just were told about ourselves to ourselves and we continue to do as adults. But you got to do it despite it. You need to learn and create those coping skills where you have to focus on. It's that perception of yourself. Yes, what if all those negative things happen? But what if you start to train your brain to stop focusing on all the catastrophic things that might happen, that 99% most likely won't happen, but we're so good at just sitting on those fears and just letting it take over us. Instead, what if you focus on all the evidence you already have in your life that is completely contrary to all those negative voices? So yes, totally normal, but it is up to you. It is your choice whether you allow those fears, those negative fake stories to take over your life and to keep you small and to keep you from taking that next step and asking yourself, why not me? Why don't you instead ask yourself, what if the good things do turn out for the best? What if I don't fail? What if they do love me? What if I still look stupid and I learned to laugh at myself and I learned, oh my gosh, I'm not going to die. It was a great learning experience and I put myself out there anyways. And so as we take these little steps, we get more and more evidence to the contrary of all those negative stories in our head. And we have to focus on that. It's really shifting and pausing because especially for those of us like you and I who are super type A, super goal oriented, we tend to look at what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Which is a good thing and a bad thing. We have to pause long enough to celebrate our wins before we do the next thing. We have to pause to reflect on what worked and what didn't. And despite all of our failures, because guess what? We have so many failures on the way in order to get the success that we're going to create even more evidence to ourselves that, oh my gosh, it happened despite all those disasters. It happened despite the fact that I made a fool of myself. But so what? Ask yourself that. So what? Did it end you? No.
So I listen to you and I love the contagious energy and I'm like, yes, 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 rah, rah, go Tiffany, go Tiffany. And I hear it all. I want to know, what steps did you take to get to that place? Were you born that way or did you have to overcome something? Like, what did you have to stop believing about yourself and start believing so you could be that? I want to know that.
So many things. So if you go back just 4 years ago, you know that I was never in like the public eye. I had a social media presence, but it was objects and sparkly shoes and my clients. You never saw me. I was not a personal brand. I was not the face of my social media presence, which is basically in a nutshell what a personal brand is. And so people saw my work. I built my reputation by making other people look and feel great. That is where I gave myself my pat in the back. That is where I built my business. But you never saw me. And you know that I was always, and I still am, the super quiet, introverted one. I'm not shy. And I've gotten better about even getting over my initial awkwardness. I'm just a little less awkward, but still my normal awkward self. Like I had to get over those things, over those fears, because the possibilities of putting myself out there greatly outweighed all of the negative stories. So I was the person that never put themselves out there. I thrived working behind the camera. But when I saw the possibilities of what could happen if I put myself out there, when I started to work with people, when I got to know people, I think I got this little tiny glimmer. I had no idea that I would be doing today what I'm doing today. I couldn't have predicted it if I had a crystal ball. I couldn't even have said just 4 years ago that today I'd be coaching people, helping them get confident on camera. That would be so ironic and funny, yet it's not. We often teach the thing that we needed the most ourselves. So I started with personal development. I saw and recognize. I'm a keen observer, someone who's worked on set. I will observe everything and all the minute details, and that's one of my strengths. But I took that strength and I also put it into recognize the characteristics of really highly successful people. Yes, they have the doubts, but they also learn how to switch it off and instead look to the positive. Yes, they have things that they don't know everything and they haven't mastered it, but how do you go from just being excellent at something to be excellent and into mastery? And so I learned that these people are lifelong learners. So I started doing that. I was like, when was the last time I read a book that wasn't just for fun? Like, it actually helped teach me something that I wasn't aware of. I love fiction, but when was the last time I did anything to better myself? And that came initially in the form of books. That came initially at looking at blogs that were not just fashion and beauty, which I loved, but things that really enhanced me to become a better human being. It really started with just that. Then I started tiptoeing and investing in personal and business development courses, because what you don't know, you don't know. So if you're smart enough, you will start using the free Google University, and then you take it to the next step, and then you start learning from those people that you recognize, wow, they've done something too. Everyone starts from nothing. Nobody starts from the top. There's always one or two cases where there's like lots of nepotism or, dumb luck. That's like 1%. Now, the rest of us, we have to show up. We have to be creative. We have to research. We get to learn more. So I just dove into how can I learn to become a different version of myself. And that's something we all can do. And so when I didn't have the money, I started with the free. And then I learned that, okay, free is only going to take you so far. And that was not good enough for me. I knew I was meant to do something more. I couldn't define it. I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know what it was, but I just knew it was this feeling that there was something more. So I kept on investigating. I kept on experimenting. And then I researched, who do I want to learn from? Those people that are successful. Do I want to emulate and get a similar type of result that they have? That's the person I want to learn from. And so I got lots of coaches and mentors from afar. They didn't know who the heck I was. They didn't know that I existed. But oh my gosh, I gleaned and learned and soaked up as much as I could possibly get.
So
and that's what I did.
And I'm hearing that you really surrounded yourself with the information. And I can attest that one thing that you have always done, and I've worked with many people on sets and so forth, but you're not there texting behind the scenes or checking in on Facebook while you're on set. You're actually learning and listening.
Yeah. And I realized at the time, it wasn't just because I wanted to be the person in front of the camera. It was because I knew that even though my role for any given shoot or production set was, do the hair and makeup, and pretty much you do touch-ups, and then most people are on their phone all day and looking up every now and then and, de-shining. But for me, I wanted to learn the business of it. I wanted to learn, okay, in my head for many, many years, I never spoke up. I was like, oh, that wardrobe needs help or that hair needs help, but I'm only here to do makeup, so I'm not going to speak up. And then I was empowered when I did speak up in the right way, and other people kind of gave me the green light that, wow, you actually have really great insight. And then they kind of gave me the permission in the beginning, but I had to, when someone gave me that, which we don't need that permission, but if someone opens the door for you, then it is up to you to make the most out of it. So then that's how I started expanding my role on what I was doing, because I was observing that I could make things so much better beyond my initial role. So then lighting became my thing. I learned everything about lighting. How can I make my clients look better? It's not just the makeup. It's a combination of the lighting. Oh my gosh, I can make them look so much better, because in my head, I would style them so differently, but they didn't hire me for that. And without stepping on other people's toes, without being unprofessional, I started expanding my knowledge. So just the way that I did on set, I've done the exact same thing with my brand online. I started with just the thing that I knew. I observed, I experimented, I put myself out there. I failed a lot. Not everything is a winner, but to me, if you fail 80% of the time, that means 20% of the time you're figuring out what's working. And
Okay,
that's a win.
Let's talk about failure. I want to know about that. So a lot of times, and they say and I believe this, any entrepreneur that's a true entrepreneur, they're only a true entrepreneur if they've made everything, lost it, and then made it again, to show that that's a pattern. what helped you in failures shift? And I'd love to know your biggest failure, if there's one you're open to sharing. And how did you shift out of that? And how quickly did you shift? Because I think that really stops people in their tracks. They have a good idea. They start working on it. They believe in themselves. They're getting going. And then boom, there's a failure and they give up.
I think it really depends on how you define failure. Again, our brains go right to the worst case scenario. And I know scientifically that has a lot to do with our reptilian brain, and we can get all down that way, but it really does. Your brain wants to protect you, wants to keep you safe. And so we're thinking, okay, avoid the new thing because you're going to get eaten by a dinosaur. Well, guess what? Dinosaurs don't roam the earth anymore. And so now we can take those chances. I've had tons of failures, and we'll talk about some specific ones, but the thing is, I'm here now. I'm still kicking it. I'm doing great. And none of those failures, which were catastrophic and horrible and didn't feel good at the time, they didn't ruin me. I always say, other than legal and ethical failures, legal and ethical issues, you're not failing if those things are not going to put you in jail or they're going to ruin you in that way. So most of us are not making any ethical or legal failures. What those things do is our normal failures. They're going to take us one step closer to winning, to get the ahas, to get the whatever the ultimate goal is. And so I failed a ton along the way. When I first created my course, it's been out for just a little over 2 years. But when I first created Lights Camera Branding, I thought that people needed what I was doing with my one-on-one clients behind the scenes on set, which is to make them look their personal best. And so that's what I sold, and it did great. But the big failure in that was that I assumed I didn't research enough that people in the online space, the broader people, the bigger groups of people, the more entry level, the intermediate, the people who are just putting themselves out in the online space for the first time, that yeah, I could help them make them look super cute on set. But who cares if they're on video and they have nothing to say? And so one of the things that I learned was I needed to do a lot more beta testing. I needed to survey the people. I needed to slow down instead of just trying to gain tons and tons of people to come into my course, which I did in the beginning. I had to slow down to speed up. That what I was teaching only got them halfway there, and that wasn't good enough for me. So yeah.
What I'm hearing is you turn to how can I be of service? And that's what worked for you on set as a makeup artist too. And that's what I've seen working for you. You're a yes girl. You're a how can I help you? How can I be of service? How can I support you? And what I'm hearing is that might have been an epiphany you figured out in your brand now, in your business, that when you come from a place of service, like how can I listen and help my audience? That's providing growth.
Oh yeah, because if you lead with just wanting to sell, which is fine. There are people who do that. I just don't think you're going to build that true tribe of people who are your true people. And that's what I've been able to do. And the thing is, like, you have gigantic, amazing numbers on social media. I still don't, but I still have a really successful, thriving business that has legs, that's not going to combust a week, let alone a year from now. And you and I have seen a lot of people who start off with a huge bang and then they completely disappear. And so I'm building a sustainable business, and I'm proof positive for everybody out there that you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers if you have 1,000 true fans.
Correct.
And so my numbers are still really small, but I lead with service. It is almost like a side effect of doing that so well that I've been able to build a really successful business, that I've gone from being a successful makeup artist that most makeup artists are not making over 6 figures. I was, but I recognize I hit my ceiling. I can only work with so many people, so many hours in a day, even if they're like the top of the top, that I hit a ceiling, and I knew that I was here for more. I knew I was made for more. I had no idea what it looked like. Now I take that same thing, but on such a bigger level, and I'm able to help more people. For me, it's how many people can I help? Yes, I love working with the fancy people, and I have a handful of clients left. But the thing that drives me, that I never knew existed before, that I never felt before, was until I became of service. And all of us do this in so many different ways. You're the person that finally helps people feel good in their skin, whatever that looks like. You're the person that finally gets people off of the dieting yo-yo that's killing their bodies from the inside out and how they feel about themselves. You do all that. We do that in our own unique ways. It is never going to be something in the beginning that we have any idea what it is. We just know it's something. It's your job to dig and figure it out and fail until you get a little bit more of a fuzzy definition, and then the fog starts to disappear, and then you get a clearer vision. And then that too will shift. And that's the beauty of it. We never know what we don't know. It's your job. And I think as true entrepreneurs, we're constantly problem solving. That's the definition of entrepreneurs. We look at problems, we see a gap in the market. How can we fill that gap? And that's what I'm always looking to do.
So Tiffany, tell me about the behind the scenes of, I want to know the real, like, when we don't see perfect Tiffany. So like what goes on? Do you ever have self-doubt? Do you ever have bad days where you have to motivate yourself? Where have you had those moments, and what do you do?
Oh my gosh, every day, all day sometimes, but I do quiet them. I don't talk about it a lot, but I've been talking about it a little bit more just this last year. I wake up with anxiety every single morning. Part of that, I've never had anxiety my entire life. I'm not like a lifelong sufferer, but as I got into my 40s, it's a part of it's chemistry. It's my thyroid. I've had a really tough time with my thyroid since I turned 40. So I've had battles. You don't even know this, but we've gone to live events together, and the day before, 48 hours before, I was in the ER. And I had to get released. And then I was like, I'm going to do my job, suck it up, and I'm going to go to this live event because my clients are there, waiting for me. I've suffered a lot the last 3 years with a lot of those adrenal, and really my thyroid is just finally doing better. But all my hair fell out. And part of the lasting side effects of that is I wake up with anxiety every single morning. But the thing that I do before my feet hit the floor is you can call it meditation, you can call it prayer. For me, it's kind of the same thing. I focus on what I'm grateful for. And that literally, for me, helps me to lessen that anxiety. I literally wake up shaken with anxiety every single morning. I tell myself it's not real. It's not real. Sometimes I have to say it out loud. I have to hear myself say, this is not real. I slow down my breathing. I pray. I do my meditations. I focus on at least 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I get out of bed and I focus on, oh my gosh, I get to serve. I love the people that I coach with. I love the people that are in my circle. I love the people that I get to hang out with. And that immediately, again, I don't have like the kind of anxiety, and I know there's all different types, and my heart goes out to them because I've never felt this until I got into my 40s, that they have very serious levels of anxiety and depression. I don't claim to have those things, but I feel it every single day. And so I learned some coping mechanisms to get me off that ledge so that I can start my day on the right foot and get me through those moments. But especially as an entrepreneur, it has really been triggered even more. I have to say, every time I launch, there have been, they call it the launch roller coaster, putting yourself out there to be judged, to say that the thing that you've created from nothing, your product, your service, your group coaching, whatever it is, your ability to speak to other people, we are all being judged. But you got to get over it, because yes, there will be haters. There will be trolls. There will be people who are just not for you. They're not even haters. They're just not your cup of tea. And I'm not their cup of tea. And that's such a good thing. The way that I've looked at that, the way that I've reframed that was just to look at the people and say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you don't like me. I hope you find the person who is for you, that you resonate with. Now I created an open seat right here next to me for the person who's been waiting for me. I'm going to go find that person. So that's the way I look at it. Good if they hate me. It doesn't bother me anymore, because I know that I'm focusing on the 95% of the people out there that I know that I can reach, that I know that I can help. And the 5% that I'm not for them, they hate me, they can't stand me, they don't like how I look, how I sound, what I say. Good. You're making space for the people who do need you. So that doesn't bother me anymore. Maybe it's a side effect of getting older or just being out there long enough. And that used to make me hyperventilate during launches. I'd get one negative comment. We know that we hold on to that negative comment even though we get 50 good ones. I've been in that fetal position, literally. Now not if, but when I get in that fetal position, I feel sorry for myself. I give myself 10 minutes to feel sorry for myself. And then I literally say, snap out of it. What good is this doing? Like, I just get super logical with myself. I'm in my feelings, but you know what? You can choose to stay in those negative feelings. What is it going to do for you? How is it being productive or positive to yourself?
I just figured out, like, I just named what it is that you have.
What is it?
You have the cheerleader effect. It's like this, it's almost like you rah yourself, and it's amazing. Like, I've not witnessed this with somebody else. It's like, I see the commonalities with entrepreneurs and successful people with the personal development for sure. Mm-hmm. I see the commonalities with talking themselves, surrounding themselves with the right things. You literally rah yourself like a cheerleader. It's amazing. I feel the energy. It's like a contagious energy. It's so cool. And it's like, I want some of that. Like, I'm listening to you going, yeah. And I'm thinking, how can somebody listening to this, somebody's listening to this right now and they're going, okay, I love your energy. Where do you find it? Where do you find that energy? What would you tell them to start having some of this?
You have to learn to derive it from yourself first, because my mistakes that I made in the past was I totally was a walking billboard of my resume. My self-worth, my identity, and you know this, came from the people that I was working with. That is what leveraged me. That is what gave me my credibility, my street cred. That's how it worked for me in great ways. But it took me so much personal development, digging deep, burying my ego and saying, if I'm going to build this brand new thing online when nobody knows me and I'm starting from scratch, I can't rely on being so-and-so's makeup artist. I can't rely on being the person that is working on set with this $10 million launch. I got to build that on my credibility, on who I am. And I had to let go of needing that pat on the back.
And how did you do that? How did you do that? Like, because I hear that a lot too about building. You had to let go of that ego and you had to dig deeper. But what were the steps you took? Like, how did you do that? What did you discover about yourself?
That I still had credibility, that I still had greatness within me, that I can help other people and be of service without needing those accolades. That's tough. That is self-realization. And that's saying, I'm not relying on other people to give me permission. I'm no longer going to be a walking billboard for, I'm great because I've done this, this, and this. And that's tough coming from an industry where they have so many award shows where they do reward themselves and recognize themselves. And there is beauty in recognizing your art and your creativity, but I had to stop recognizing that as what defined me. And that was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that came through working with my business coach, who called me out on it, that I would introduce myself not as who I am, but who I've worked with and what I've done.
Yeah. So I love that you
tough.
just said that too, because I think so many people are misguided around business coaches or mentors, or like they think, oh, I don't need that. I can just read. But having a good coach will call you forth and will talk to you about what's in your gap. And I thought you just spoke right into that, which is amazing. But that's true. A good coach cares and will go call you forth on that gap. And if that is in your gap, like a self-worth conversation is a big gap for people.
Right. And so a lot of people are like, well, I don't have those accolades. I haven't done the experience coming into building my next thing. I think that's a gift because it comes with yes, it does benefit me, but it also comes with a lot of baggage, especially when your former life where you did have a lot of success, you don't want to just weigh on what you did in the past to get to your next thing in the future. And I totally did that. It's probably one of the biggest failures I had in my own vision and my definition of myself. It's taken me years. And that's been the hardest part of what I've done. I've had to ride on my own rather than riding on other people's coattails. And I fully admit that I did that. It benefited everybody. But when I realized that, and I know it's so cliche, but it's so dang true, that I am enough with who I am standing on my own, now surrounding the people around me that, my circle of friends have changed. When you shift in those ways, you get into a higher level of success and a higher level of how you vision yourself. When you change, other people are not going to always change with you. So I've lost some really good friends. I've lost some other mentors in my life, but I have new ones. And it's not that it's a good or bad thing, because we always want to make everything black and white. Is that a good change, a bad change? It is neither. It's just new. And so, yes, I still have tons of friends I've known forever like you, we're continuing to grow and evolve and change, and we're doing it together, and we support each other. And I think in this space, where in the online marketing space, in the YouTube world, in the podcasting world, in the Instagram world, where we're looking at big numbers and everyone's climbing on top of each other's backs to like get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm not one of those people. I'm just like, I'm tried and true. I always say that I am more faithful and dedicated than a German Shepherd, but you have to be really careful because not everybody is. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who have ulterior motives, but as we get older, whether it's friends or true colleagues and people that you can rely on, if you can count those people on one hand, you are beyond blessed.
Now, when you said a lot of people have ulterior motives, yes, I can see that too and align with that. How do you avoid getting skeptical and making new connections? Because networking and making new connections is so important. But when we know, or you know, that there's people that do that, how do you avoid being so skeptical that you don't continue to connect and meet new people and trust?
Again, it's just like our successes and how we view our failures. We've all been burned. We've all had relationships where you're like, I wish I handled it differently, or they handled it differently, and we ended differently. We all have those situations. And I think for me, part of the growing pains of building a business are those relationships that sometimes bridges have been burned. And other times, it doesn't matter whose fault it is, but that's been a really big learning lesson that despite those things that happen, I'm not going to cut off the 95% of the amazing people and opportunities we have to leverage one another, that I'm still going to focus on. I'm going to force myself to focus on the positive versus, oh my gosh, yeah, it's easy to become jaded. It's like dating or like marriage, right? Like you get burned once, you're never going to date again. So you're never going to let love in. It's just like that. And so with friendships, with relationships, with people who are in your space, and networking, which for introverts, that's like my least favorite word, but I still put myself out there because amazing, positive, beautiful, life-changing, business-changing things can happen, and they have happened. So I focus on that.
Amazing. How do you shift your mood when you don't feel like it? Because I know you have days, you can't tell me you don't, that you wake up and like, I just don't feel like it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm super, super organized, and I've become so much better with not being a workaholic, working 10-hour days, 12-hour days like I used to, because I'm creating this online business, my brand, where I'm not dictated by somebody else's schedule, but I've had to learn to put, control my own. I like to, once a week, I look at the most important things that I need to do to get closer to that initial goal that I have right now. I'm all about the 90-day goals. You and we've been doing that for a really long time. I front load my week, so I try to do the majority of what needs to be done, the most important things. For me, it's 15 things. And I distribute them on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I try to leave Thursdays and Fridays unscheduled. That way life can happen. That way things do happen. And I've got that space. Going into my week that way, Sunday night, I wake up Monday morning excited for what I get to do. And I have a game plan. So doing that allows for a lot of white space and to lower the anxiety and the overwhelm. And it also allows for the times, especially as a creative, we get burnt out mentally. It's not so much physically, but it manifests also physically. Sometimes I need a day to do nothing. And it's taken me years. I'm getting better at it. I have not mastered this. But there are days where I'm not going to work. And that's okay. Which even saying it out loud freaks me out because I'm like, I got to work because, I have a little tiny team now that depends on me, and I have people that are relying on me, and I need to show up. But I realized if I'm burnt out or I need a break, that if I don't do that, then I can't help any of them. And so that's something that I'm continuing to learn. I know self-care is like a big buzzword right now, and we can define what that looks like. It doesn't mean a spa day. It doesn't mean that we go do those things. For me, the thing that I have to work on so much, which is ironic because it's the thing that you're so great at, is to move my body more, is to make sure I'm nourishing my body with the right foods. I'm a total emotional eater, and I've gotten so much better about that as I've gotten older, but like not using those crutches, which only make me feel worse. So taking care of myself so that I can be at my tip-top form, so that I can mentally be at the top of my game, so that I can physically be at the top of my game. A lot of that is to stop working so dang much and to realize that, and this is something that I have to credit my coach with, that you don't have to kill yourself with work. In fact, not doing that and working smarter, not harder, that you're going to actually love what you do. You're going to have that sustainability. You're not going to bring yourself out. I'm not going to kill my adrenals again because I was such a workaholic and literally work myself to the bone, that there's a different way and you can actually become more successful as you learn those things.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's awesome. I love that. I'm curious, who is in your circle and what types of people you surround yourself with now?
Oh my gosh. I surround myself with people who make me, I know this is going to sound so weird, but it's not a negative thing. I want to make sure that I'm always the dumbest person in the room. And I don't mean dumb in a negative way. I just mean it's more of a saying, but I do want to be the dumbest person in the room because they make you level up. It's not a self-judgment thing at all.
The name of my podcast, Level Up.
Yes. So that's exactly what it helps you to do. For me, when I wasn't ready for that, I would look at those people and go, oh my gosh, I'm going to compare myself. I'm going to get the comparisonitis. I'm going to focus on all the things that I lack, that I haven't done, that I'm undereducated, that I don't have their funds, that I don't have whatever it is. But instead, because I see it as possibility. And I think that as creatives, as people who are, if you're creative in any capacity, in any way, if we're of service and we're helping other people, it is so not just important, it is vital and imperative to surround yourself with people from all different industries. I'm in a mastermind group. I will never not be in a mastermind group or a coaching group of some kind, whether it's peer-led or one that I'm paying for. I've been in one that I pay for annually for the second year. And those people show me what's possible because there are levels in many different ways, in many different areas, far beyond what I've achieved yet. But now I know how, and you're going to do it so much faster and so much easier when you're with those people. And I like that it's a room full of people who've been vetted, that it's not just everybody, that you had to like meet minimum requirements and all of those things. I wasn't ready for that 4 years ago. But in order to keep doing this thing and do it better, I had to find those spaces and I had to make my way in. And I've done exactly that.
So you created your own tribe. You found a way to create your own tribe. And I'm with you that even you did take advantage, which is amazing. You made it an opportunity when you be on set. You use Google, you use the books, you use podcasts, you did everything to self-teach, but that you found it important and you did invest in yourself to start leveling up and being in with the crowd that you wanted to surround yourself with.
Right. And I think that a lot of us, especially those who are really self-driven, it's our ego. We tend to think we can figure it all out on your own, which you can. That's going to be a slower, harder, much more difficult road. Not impossible, but when I have a coach or I have a peer who's further ahead in their business or have experiences in things that I do not, they are just a few yards ahead of me and they can tell me what obstacles to avoid, that this is going to happen, or when I experience this, let me help you with this. Ultimately, it's up to you what you do and don't do, but it has saved me so much time, grief, and so much more money than investing in the initial cost of being in that tribe or in that group or in that coaching and the masterminds and all those things. That's why I do it, because it helps me do it with less pain and faster. And I don't know anybody who doesn't want to avoid pain and get more success faster.
Yes. Amen to that. I have a question that I ask everybody, and I'd love to know if somebody came to you and they're literally starting out from a rock bottom spot. So whether they lost a big client, their business has failed, marriage is bad. You are like, seriously, what did I name you? The cheerleader effect? You are the cheerleader effect. What would you tell that person if you were going to give them, they're like, you're just going to give them 3 things that they can take action on and do right now to help shift them. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. I would first tell them that they're not alone and that this isn't something that they need to do this alone. That yes, the cheerleading, the rah-rah really helps you to just get that initial push to just get off the ground, get out of the fetal position. Sometimes we need help. And that is something that, I'm almost 44 years old and I'm learning to add that into my vocabulary, especially as self-driven, really motivated people. When we fall, not if, but when we fall, when we fail, we have to learn to dust ourselves off. Sometimes we can't do that on our own. So it's perfectly not just okay, but it's necessary. And it's another way to get yourself out of that funk or that horrible life situation that we all face, whether it's the divorce or whether it's the business failure or the relationships, business or otherwise that failed, that ultimately you need to pick yourself up. It's your choice. And I'm not all about unicorns and butterflies and sparkling things all the time. That's not what real life is. Mm-hmm. We have those rock bottom moments, but spend the time that you need to feel those feelings. Those feelings are real. They are warranted. They are validated. But those feelings do not have to define you any longer, a minute longer than you need it to. And so everybody has that moment where they're like, enough. And so you need to reach out for help. You need to pull yourself up and you just need to take that one step. Maybe that first step is just a shower. I've had those moments where I'm like, wow, I'm so depressed. I'm in such a funk. How do I get out of it? And get those natural feel-good hormones and feelings going, like move your body. That doesn't mean you need to go do like some crazy CrossFit workout. A 10-minute walk outside in nature does so many good things for your soul and your body and your mind. Like just get moving. Even if you're introvert/hermit, and I'm getting worse as I get older, I have to remember I need to surround myself with people. And so even if it's just going to get coffee and just observing people, that does your body and your mind so much good. I like to go to Whole Foods, get a green drink, and people watch.
Yeah.
So that kind of works too. I can't work where it's like super loud because I'm so used to like really quiet surroundings. But when I need to get out and see humans, that really, really helps me. And it gets me out of my focused, individual, zero humans around me kind of cave that I tend to work in. So if you're in that funk, you just have to really pull yourself up and figure out how to do it. And if you can't do that, seek help. Hopefully you've got one or two friends who you can be completely real with. And you're like, this sucks right now. And I'm not in a good place. I just need help. Maybe it's just going out with those friends. Maybe it's like grocery shopping to get some healthy food and doing something positive for yourself.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Tiffany, this has been so energizing. Like you're energizer butter. You are a cheerleader effect. I love your energy. I love your drive, and I love your willingness to share. And you're so humble about it all. I don't think I've ever asked you for anything that you've said no. Like you're just like you're a yes. How can I help? And how can I help more?
That's only true with certain people.
Okay. I think you're great about it. You really are. You always show up that way to me.
Yeah, I love connecting people with other great people. As far as energy goes, I think some of the most positive people are that way because we know how it feels to feel really bad and to have the negativity and to have the negative voices and the failures and tough and rough times in our life. Because we've tasted that and felt it and lived it, we relish the positivity. So I choose to focus on that. I could sit in the negative and feel sorry for myself and, play the blame game, but I take 100% responsibility for my life. So I know that energy creates energy. Energy attracts more energy. And that's true for both the positive things as well as the negative things. And so I choose to attract more of the people, the positive people that I want in my life. And that's a choice.
Where can people find you and what are you working on next?
My central hub, you can find me on my website. It's coachglitter.com. There's a little bit of everything on there. My brand is always shifting. It's getting away more from just the makeup and the styling and more into that space of being of service and helping and coaching others. I love being a camera confidence coach. Depending on when they're listening to this, I probably just finished my launch. We do have a course called Lights Camera Branding. It's only open a couple times a year at the most, but I help entrepreneurs become wildly successful and confident by being on camera, especially with live video, which is the thing that made my business, the single thing that made my business explode. So I love helping other people do the exact same thing. But coachglitter.com, social media, I'm Coach Glitter everywhere. So yeah, come find me and say hi and let me know that you listen to this podcast.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks for leveling up with us today. Please share this episode if you found it helpful so others can join in. And don't forget to hit that subscribe so you don't miss out on future shows. And if you would leave me a 5-star review, I appreciate those so much. I read all of them, and it's how I know that I'm giving you information that you find valuable. And come interact with me over on Instagram at NatalieJillFit. I read all the direct messages and comments over there. Make it a great day, creating everything from nothing.